Hi guys, it has been a while since my last video. I spent the last 3 months at the University of McGill in Montreal, Canada, doing research related to climate change and interacting with students doing great work. But I'll talk about this some other time. I returned home to Trinidad and Tobago, and in the last few days, my country has been hit with a lot of floods. These flooding events caused a lot of destruction. There are videos of cars stalling in floodwaters, leaking roofs, falling walls, landslides, homes collapsing, all circulating on social media. I also know of at least one case where a woman died after being swept away by floodwaters. Many factors, including inadequate or compromised drainage systems and extreme weather conditions, would have contributed to flooding events. Regardless, many workers risked their lives to rescue citizens and aid in recovery efforts. Workers who respond to flooding events face great risks but can protect themselves by learning about the hazards commonly associated with floods. This session will examine a few of these hazards and measures to protect workers. One of the most obvious hazards with flooding is drowning. Workers should not work alone and should wear personal flotation devices when working in or near floodwaters. Now, chemical and biological hazards present another risk to the health and safety of workers. Floodwaters can be contaminated with untreated raw sewage, dead animals, rotting food, and other substances containing pathogens such as E. coli, salmonella, the hepatitis A virus, and agents of typhoid and tetanus. Floodwaters also may be contaminated by agricultural or industrial chemicals or by hazardous agents present at flooded hazardous waste sites. Although most floods don't cause serious outbreaks of infectious diseases or chemical poisonings, they can cause sickness in workers and others who come in contact with contaminated floodwater. Most cases of sickness associated with flood conditions are caused by accidentally ingesting contaminated food or water. However, some diseases such as tetanus can be acquired from contaminated soil or water entering cuts, abrasions, or puncture wounds. Workers who come in contact with waterborne pathogens generally experience symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, muscle aches, and fever. Although different chemicals cause different health effects, the signs and symptoms most frequently associated with chemical poisoning are headaches, skin rashes, dizziness, nausea, excitability, weakness, and fatigue. To limit contracting diseases and illnesses, workers can use PPE such as plastic or rubber gloves, boots, and other protective clothing needed to avoid contact with potentially contaminated floodwater. If water is suspected of being contaminated with hazardous chemicals, cleanup workers may need to wear special chemical-resistant outer clothing and protective goggles. It is often difficult to maintain good hygiene during cleanup, recovery, or rescue operations. Nevertheless, it is important that workers also wash hands with soap and clean running water, especially before work breaks, meal breaks, and at the end of the work shift. It is possible, however, that regardless of PPE and hygiene practices, that workers will still be exposed to dangerous pathogens. It may still be necessary for workers to be immunized from diseases such as tetanus. Extreme winds, erosion, wet conditions, and collapsing trees can lead to downed power lines. This can result in electrical or fire hazard. If water is discovered near downed power lines, electrical circuits, electrical equipment, it is important to turn off the power if possible. Workers, however, should never enter flooded areas or touch electrical equipment if the ground is wet. When workers are clearing trees and debris, there are also potential hazards of electrical shock and electrocution. Workers should also be wary of being struck or crushed by falling tree limbs. Workers participating in flooding response and recovery efforts are also at risk of back, knee, and shoulder injuries from manual lifting and handling of building materials, sandbags, and fallen tree limbs. To help prevent injuries, workers should use proper lifting techniques and teams of two or more to move bulky and heavy items. Workers should also be careful of suffering from exhaustion. Workers involved in response operations are often called upon to work extended hours under very stressful conditions. This type of working environment increases the risk of injury due to inattentiveness and makes workers more vulnerable to stress-induced illness and disease. Society depends on workers to save lives and bring back a sense of normalcy during and after flooding events. All efforts should therefore be made to ensure they can return safely to their families while carrying out this service to society. See you guys in the next session.